Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today, we'll be talking about a few very important issues. One is about the ongoing violence in the extreme eastern part of India. Well, rather not only the eastern part, but also in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Lucknow, in Assam, in Bihar, you name it, the problem seems to be there. And that is regarding that very controversial bill, the CAB, the bill in which now the minorities from Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh, they will be given, if they require, they will be given the nationality of India. Whether you are a Christian, you are a Sikh, or for that matter you're a Hindu, or a Dalit, or for that matter even a Jain, or a Parsi. But other than the Muslims. So this was very controversial. And then again, talking about all those who moved in from Bangladesh and the related areas around 1970-71, post the war. Those people who've been there for the last almost 50 years, now they've been told to leave because they do not have any nationalities. All the Muslims either will be sort of flushed out towards Bangladesh or any other country. Whether they'll accept them, that is a different story altogether. But having said that, the problem is huge. We have also heard that they are also building some concentration camps in those areas, and all these Muslims would be jailed. Interestingly, yesterday we also spoke about one officer who served in the Indian Army for almost 30 years. He was a war veteran, a person who was a part of the war in Kargil, was eventually picked up since he had no proof whether he was an Indian or not, and he was sent to the civilian jail. So this is exactly what is going on out there in that part of the world. Other than that, we'll also be talking about this fake news agenda. Now, we all know that what propaganda means, what is the importance of carrying out such important news and just sort of changing them, changing the reality, changing the content, and just spreading it all over the world. This was not only a new phenomena, this is what we have earlier witnessed in the Second World War also. Now, to talk about this is something very important, and the ongoing situation in India is something which maybe, most likely, the Indian government did not expect. But since then, many people have been killed. Yesterday there was reports that more than 4 dozen people were seriously injured, more than 100 were injured otherwise, and around 6 people, youngsters primarily, got killed. 4 of them were shot by the Indian police, 1 was burnt alive, and the 6th person primarily was killed again. So this is what exactly is going on out there. You talk about the universities, you talk about what happened in the Jamia University, you talk about what happened in Aligarh University. Muslim kids, their hostels were raided, young kids, whether girls or boys, they were picked up from their respective universities, from the hostels, and few of them were sent to various jails. And this is exactly, again, another very important area which needs to be focused. Then let me go through a couple of tweets also. And these tweets are interestingly from the top celebrities of India. India is known to have so many. Let's see what they have to say, what they had to share. Now, Twinkle Khanna, again a very known name, daughter of Rajesh Khanna. She's married to one top-notch Indian actor, Akshay Kumar. She says discrimination based on race, color, caste, religion, and other such social constructs in whatever form goes against the fundamental moral integrity of the human condition. Pooja Bhatt, again the daughter of a very known producer, Mahesh Bhatt. Her sister is also an actress. She herself was one of the top actresses. She says, if you won't stand up against those who tear us apart with their lies, hate and bigotry, expect to do a lot of sitting down. Now, this is stated by Pooja Bhatt. Siddharth Malhotra, again a very known top Indian actor, says, my heart goes out for all the students back home in Delhi. In a democracy like ours, it's sad to see violence against citizens for voicing their opinion through peaceful protest. There should be no place for violence of any form and intent in our country. I strongly condemn this act. This is what Malhotra said. You talk about Pariniti Chopra. Now, she says that if this is what's going to happen every time a citizen expresses their view, forget. At CAB is the bill, we should pass a bill and not call our country a democracy anymore. beating up innocent human beings for speaking their mind. Barbaric. Now, this is what is going on, and there are so many other tweets also, but since we do not have much time to go through, but just imagine this is what exactly they are thinking at the moment. To talk about this, we have with us in our studio, let me introduce you to our panelists. On my right is Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal Saab. Dr. Saab is a senior professor, is also a foreign affairs expert. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. And we have with us Ambassador Aslam Rizvi Saab, who is a senior diplomat. Thank you very much. And we'll also be joined in by Syed Muhammad Ali, who is an international relations expert based in the United States of America. So, Ali Saab, thank you very much for taking out your time as well to be a part of our show. But Dr. Saab, let's start off from this CAB issue, sir. Now, it's not only in Assam, Bihar, or Manipur, or the eastern side of India primarily, sir, but it's happening in Delhi, it's happening in Lucknow, it's happening in Mumbai, all the major cities. Primarily, do you think this is an actual crackdown now on the Muslims, sir?
I think that when you were sharing the tweets, there was one of the most important, you can say, tweet was by the Rahul Gandhi day before yesterday. And he said that our society has been polarized by fascist leadership. And if you have a fascist leadership or these kind of the things, definitely, whether you use the word crackdown, whether you use whatever you wish, you can use it, but it's a reflection. The reflection that in India, Hindutva forces are dominating. They are exploiting the majoritarian system. They have, you can say, violated their own constitution. They have, you can say, buried the secularism in India. And today, it would be right to say that India is no more India, it's a Bharat or Hindutva. And if you can go with these, as you pointed out, in a number of the cities, what is happening? The most important thing is the demonstrations are not only for the Muslims. Other nationalities, other communities, they are also very sensitive. Today, maybe Sikh and Christians thinks that because this act is going to nationalize them, but first time they are putting the Muslims out. In the following, you can say, years, Sikhs, Dalits, Christians, they will be the victim of
forced conversion of religion?
Yes,
is that what is taking
place
there?
Their target. And in that case, they think that the Sikhs were also originally the Hindus, the Christians in that area were originally the Hindus. So what my understanding is that what is happening with the Muslims today, if BJP succeed or Modi Janta succeed, definitely in the coming years, maybe after 3-4 years, the same kind of situation you would feel, you will be going to find the other minorities will be trapped there. So in this context, if you try to analyze it politically, it is against the, you can say, politics. If you try to analyze legally, it's against the norms of the rule of law. If you try to analyze the constitutionally, it's against the Indian constitution. And above all, it's a denial of what the founding fathers of India used to say. India is a pluralistic society.
Yep.
And now the government is, you can say, quashing this element of pluralistic society from the state of India.
This is pretty alarming. Now, sir, whatever we are witnessing, I mean, this was supposed to happen. But don't you think, Ambassador, this is happening too quickly during the second term? I mean, abolition of Article 370, 35A in Kashmir, and after this another bill. And most likely there's going to be another bill. I mean, are they practically, the government of India I'm talking about, are they practically thinking at the, the breaking point of various cultures, various religions? Primarily, it is against the Muslims. Very open war, it has been declared. Look at the number of people who are representing in BJP who are Muslims basically. Just imagine, UP for that matter, so many other areas. Don't you think, sir, this is the beginning of the end of so-called the secular India, and we'll end up having a very, very hostile neighbor, which is already there, but in some other different angles, some other ways as well, sir, on the eastern side?
I mean, it is already now accepted as a fact that secular India is no longer there. The constitution has been violated in India. Let me first comment on some tweets that you had mentioned. One of the most touching and one which is going viral on the internet is one by Miss Shetty, who is a well-known writer and an activist, and who started out a poem called "I Refuse to Be." It's worth reading. It's in the Dawn today. You can find the write-up there. The second thing I'd like to say is that I think you should see what is happening right now in India as something which may have started way back in 2005, when Mr. Modi and his Home Minister had embarked on a policy or drummed up a policy of trying to unite the Hindus and to divide the rest. And
This was when he was the
in Gujarat.
Gujarat, right?
2002.
2000, from
Okay.
that time.
Amit Shah was also a part of this person.
Yes. Even at that time.
Even at that
And
time.
he's
yes.
his right-hand man right now who's doing that. So the origins really, if you look far back, they, first of all, they are now targeting the Muslims, and Kashmir is one of the things that they first started there. But what we see now is that it is not only the Muslims, but what his latest thing, the CAA and the Registration Act that they have enacted, is affecting also others. Now, allowing the people who refugees or immigrants who came from neighboring countries to get nationality other than the Muslims have caused problems for the countries also. And there are 4 or 5 provinces or states, and in particular Assam being the foremost, which have had voted for BJP. And now they are upset about it because they don't want the West Bengalis and the others, the Hindus, to settle there, and there have been agitations on that already. So it seems to be backfiring on them on this issue. You find that the entire country, the opposition, even their own supporters, the Hindu supporters in the parliament, walked out when the bill was passed from there. So this is something which is really causing a upheaval.
But sir, look at the majority who supported the bill in Lok Sabha, 311 versus 80.
Yes.
And you talk about the Rajya Sabha, I think 125 against 105.
Yes.
So
yes, I mean,
they're
they
in
have
power.
the majority, so obviously they are able to push through. But this reaction that you're saying, the violent reaction, extreme reaction, and this is then going to be affecting all the others as well. Rightly pointed out, the Dalits, the Sikhs, the Christians, and the Parsis, and all the minorities which are in India. So this has come to likely to haunt Modi's decision. They will have to probably back down on this. There's a growing demand for the same in the country. The fact is that there is no sign of this movement that has started against these act subsiding. If anything, it is increasing all the time. And we have seen, as you rightly mentioned, in the university in Aligarh and Agra and all over the thing, they are in Delhi itself. There have been demonstrations, and the brutal way that they are the police and the security forces are handling them is.
Sir, there was this very interesting little interview of this girl. She was supposed to appear in she's studying law, and she was supposed to appear in one of the papers today. And no, sir, she was picked up, and she was yelling, she was crying, she was shouting that what will happen now about my studies and my future. So forget about the future regarding the studies. You should be more concerned about the future, that you'll be able to live and survive. It's a different ballgame.
Faisal, if you see, there's a very important thing which we have to not forget here, that they started in Kashmir after 5th August, the same kind of the crackdown, and there he failed. But we were seeing in the BJP's manifesto about this bill, or everyone was expecting that they will not cross the limit, and definitely there will be something different. But it has been proven that ideologically driven leadership is always dangerous. And India is facing this entire crisis. As the Ambassador was rightly pointed out earlier, that if you focus, that what is happening in India today. Now the question is Prime Minister Modi want to divert the attention because his economic policies have failed in his first tenure, and even today, their growth, though they are projecting, they are fudging the figures, they are saying, but it's around the 4 or less of the 4% growth.
4.4, 4.5%, that's what they claim.
And that is a big challenge, sir.
Will be a big problem. So we've been joined in also by, you want to complete
Yes,
something,
I just
sir?
wanted to
Quick
add,
comment, sir.
you see, this is not only against the norms of equality and non-discrimination, but also against the international law on human rights, because it is religion-based criteria that they have adopted for the act. And importantly, I would also like to add that it is also against the bilateral agreement between India and Pakistan on the security and the safety of the minorities in our two countries.
That's correct, sir.
We have an agreement there. And there has been condemnation from outside, even from the United Nations and so on, but not a very strong condemnation. So what is needed is this has to be actively highlighted so that there is a severe condemnation on India. And I think it's going to pick up as the...
Sir, if you remember, during these Hong Kong unrest, I mean, hardly 1 or 2 people were killed, but all these foreign media, you talk about CNN, BBC, all the European channels, all the Western channels, they were reporting it 24/7, sir. Yes. But when you talk about such incidents, which are real stories, real news, nobody wants to talk about that. Sir, let's go to Muhammad Ali. Ali Saab, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ali, thank you very much for taking out your time and talking to us. Sir, you need to be a little louder. Since we have with us Aslam Rizvi Saab, former ambassador, and Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal Saab, the foreign affairs expert in our studio now. The topic is primarily about the ongoing riots in India, especially after the CAB. Now, that bill, which is totally against the Muslims, what is the future of the Muslims? First question, sir. And since you live in USA, and I'm sure you are observing it, you're reading about it, you're following such stories, what is the reaction out there about this particular step taken by the government of Narendra Modi, sir?
So Faisal, absolutely. I mean, not only observing it, but just yesterday I was at a think tank, the Center for Global Policy, and Kamran Siddiqui, who's an analyst, also based here. He had people from the Woodrow Wilson Center. He had Samit Ganguly, who's a very prominent Indian academic, and there was a broader discussion around the citizenship bill in particular. I mean, I think that the ambassador's assessment, Ambassador Rizvi's assessment is quite astute. And it seems like there's been a miscalculation, from the Hindutva sort of anti-Muslim, if you will, and obviously there's a geostrategic tussle there when it comes to the Kashmir issue. But the citizenship bill and the absence of Muslims, so it's a minorities, but in a very specific context. That has really backfired, and this was a discussion we were having yesterday. That this particular move is a move that has aligned two polarities. So on the one hand, you have, for instance, in Assam, they've long-standing, the Ulfa, the local insurgency going on, had been anti-Bangladeshi. And, then there was a citizens register there to try and pacify that situation. But now even those people are protesting because the Hindu sort of Hindu and then also tribal elements like the Bodo tribes, etc. But just this idea of inundation of migrants. I mean, at the end of the day, it's also a populist majoritarian government. So you have, that element on one side that doesn't want migrants flooding in or legalizing the migrants who are from other countries who've been in India since a while. And some of them are in a precarious situation. And then obviously on the other hand, you have this sort of a lot of unrest. I mean, in Delhi and in other major cities, civil society is getting concerned. But the problem is that this is also not a well thought through strategy. Right, so it's political opportunism. But now imagine declaring all these people sort of, particularly what's happening, if we look at not only the citizenship bill, but what's happening in Assam, for instance. This idea of creating people based on their, if they are Bengalis and Muslims in particular being targeted, and creating like essentially a few million people who will be stateless. And where will they go? I mean, historically, we know in the Indian subcontinent, look at the fate of the Biharis. We haven't been able to manage it, and they sort of they've languished, in Bangladesh as well, which was East Pakistan at the time. So creating such a large number of people within the country, and then also creating a barrier which is anti-Muslim. In the U.S., it's interesting. I mean, we have recently, there has been, be it discussions in Congress, be it through sort of the freedom of religion, indices done by the U.S. government. There is increasingly a calling out. I mean, BBC, the international media, The Atlantic recently wrote a very powerful piece on Kashmir, and all of these critiques are tarnishing, India's external image as the largest democracy in the world, which is secular, which accommodates these different religions, and that image is suffering. Unfortunately, though, what you see here is that institutions within, I mean, in the U.S., for instance, you don't see the really powerful institutions like the DoD, the Department of Defense. You don't necessarily, the State Department hasn't taken a very strong position. You don't see the White House having taken a very strong position. So, while you might have some concern expressed in the Congress and regarding sort of the erosion of, citizens' rights and concerns about the minorities, there hasn't yet been a very sort of, a strong signal sent to India yet. But this kind of unrest within the country is perturbing. It's also perturbing for the bilateral U.S.-Indian strategic sort of alliance.
All right.
This
Ali,
kind of unrest now.
I'll just get back to you on this, but Dr. Saab, you talk about the OIC, you talk about the Arab League. I mean, primarily the issue is of the Muslims, and they are targeted in a certain manner, in a very, very interesting way, that what is their future? Nobody knows. Whether the other countries will accept them, I have no idea. Will they be sent in the detention centers? Most likely. But not even a proper, strong statement from OIC or the Arab League or any of these Middle Eastern countries, for that matter. Now, sir, the Prime Minister was supposed to go. I'm not sure what exactly is the reason that he's not going now. He went to Saudi Arabia, then he went to Bahrain, where he was given the highest civil award, comes back and decides that he's not going to go. The posters, they have the picture of Mahathir Mohamad, Erdogan, the Iranian President, Mr. Rouhani, and Imran Khan. I mean, it was Mahathir Mohamad was showing that magazine like this. Finally, Imran Khan is not going. Now, my point is, sir, don't you think this was the kind of forum where we have practically grilled and raised the issue? We could have grilled India, we would have raised the issue, and there must have been some strong statements, because these are the only countries which matter. Rest, I've got no clue. Sir?
No, I think that, Faisal, when we start this, these three countries, which you call it Iranian president and the Turkish president and the Mahathir, these you can Malaysian Arab government, they openly supported Pakistan on the Kashmir issue, especially after the August 5. This is the categorical.
Actually, these were the only countries who supported.
And unfortunately, UAE declared or said something like that, it was India's internal matter.
Yes, I remember.
And
sir.
Saudis were, though they are our strategic partner and everything, but they were not very much clear.
They used to support Pakistan.
But on this issue, they were not clear this time. Because they have their other...
Maybe they were clear, but they never wanted to.
Yeah, whatever we can say it. In this context, today what Pakistan needs I think that when we started the developments focusing, or you can say highlighting what is happening in the Kashmir, we were starting with the human rights. You can say ethnic cleansing of the Kashmir. Some analysts also use the word that it's an attempt which can be qualified as a genocide of the
Genocide. Oh, yes, indeed.
But
Sir.
now we have seen the same thing is starting happening in the entire India. Agreed, in the case of Kashmir or Kashmiris, maybe international community was thinking that it was India and Pakistan's bilateral issue. They have been fighting wars and blah blah, and it's a part of the terrorism. Whatever you can say, Indians very intelligently sold their propaganda or their point of view, and they couple it with their economic growth. In that context, it was understandable that maybe these nations or states were reluctant because they were thinking it's a part, or it was a continuity of unsettled bilateral dispute.
Correct.
But now here comes where you have very rightly pointed out this issue with reference to the Muslims of the India. Bill has very categorically discriminated, kept the Muslims out of this Indian society. And now where they have to eat. Look, if you see, do Pakistan has a capacity to take all those Muslims? Do the Bangladeshis has a capacity to take them back, or the others? And that's the reason yesterday Prime Minister Imran Khan reminded the international community that the South Asia is going to encounter one of the biggest refuge crises in the near future because of Prime Minister Modi's policies. So in this context, when we are looking, I think that here, though in the American senators have been now saying, the American think tanks are saying, but the way the American congressmen came out on the Hong Kong, or what you call it on the Uyghur, they passed a resolution and a bill because they had a strategic competition. That kind of thing we are not hearing from the Western or from the Americans on the Indians, especially on this bill. Agreed, it's no more today what is happening in India, it's not a outcome, or it's not a part of India-Pakistan's bilateral conflict or a tension. It's a, you can say, a particularly discriminating majoritarian, what you call it, majoritarian autocracy, majoritarian dictatorship, and that was what you can say our founding father and you can fathers, and especially at that time Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad al-Jinnah said that in the majority, Hindu majority Muslims will be going to spend. Today it has been proven. So my understanding is that Middle Easterns or all these Muslim states, or who considers themselves as the custodians of the, you can say, Islamic values or authors, they have to come up, and at least they have to criticize or they have to protest. And frankly speaking, if the Middle Eastern states make a firm policy that this is happening with Indian Muslims, we are going to oppose it, India cannot do it.
I mean, Saudi Arabia is planning to invest $70 billion plus
India cannot do it,
in the refinery in India. Don't you think, sir? Mohammed bin Salman, who is considered to be such a powerful prince, can practically say that, well, what's going on? We'll rethink, we'll reevaluate this investment. Or anyway, but they will never do that, sir. It's all about interest. So when it is about interest, sir, why is Pakistan not thinking about its own interest? Don't you think, sir, this visit could have been of great favor for Pakistan, sir? These countries where we really, you know, when you see Mahathir Mohamad, what a great leader, sir. You see Tayyip Erdogan, you see Mr. Rouhani for that matter. Imran Khan himself, what a charismatic person. In Qatar, it's a different ball game, but still, the family, I mean, represented by Mr. Thanvi. Now, that could have made a difference.
I totally agree with you. The fact is that it is these leaders, while in the sidelines of the UN General Assembly session, had pointed out the Islamophobia which is grieving.
Sir, it was the major part of his speech.
He highlighted that. So he's one of those who gave this idea, so to speak, on this.
On the sidelines
and
of the UN, they met him, yeah.
The realization that, you know, as far as the OIC is concerned, it is dysfunctional. And, you know, it has failed to, on political crisis facing the Muslim countries, to condemn them or, you know, to take any substantive method. Yes.
Ambassador Saab, during the last 20 years, I have got no clue how many interviews I have conducted. Last 20 years, maybe into thousands and thousands and thousands. not even a single person, whether a Pakistani or a foreigner, a Muslim or a Christian, he has ever said that OIC is a very strong body or OIC can do this. Not at all,
Yes.
sir.
There's
So
a
that's
joke.
what
And,
I
and
said.
people
That
say
is
that
what
if
I'm-
the headquarters of OIC were taken out of Jeddah, it could have been more powerful.
Yes, so that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say, that they have failed as far as this is concerned, but it has made successes in education, social sectors in particular.
But which issue has it ever resolved?
Well, I mean, it has certainly been there. So the point here is that these countries, we have Qatar also in part of this group, which is participating. Indonesia was put under pressure, and they are not, the
Most likely they
president
will
is
not
not
say,
going from there. But the fact remains that
The
we have
problem is
strong-
that Saudi Arabia was not invited, or why was Qatar invited, or Iran
well,
invited?
Qatar is under sanctions. From
I
the rest of the
understand, but
countries and so
what difference does it make?
Iran,
It's a Muslim
Iran
country.
is very much invited
Yes.
and so on. But now you have to see our relationship with Saudi Arabia. I mean, it is.
Sir, you have been such a senior diplomat. Sir, does it make any difference that
let
if
me
this
finish. Let
aid-
me finish what I'm saying.
Yeah, please, sorry.
I mean, they have the yet we have $5 billion to be paid back, which is deposit from there. We have also there millions of Pakistanis working there. But on the same time, look, you rightly yourself said that they are going to invest 70 billion in India. Well,
Just
when,
one project.
when the Prime Minister had gone, they could have equally have told the Crown Prince that this organization or this grouping that we are planning to do is to fight against Islamophobia, to protect the rights of the Muslims. You have your limitations and so forth. We are within the ambit of the Islamic world that we want to do this. And as you could have relationship with India without affecting our bilateral relationship, so are we becoming a part of that instead of succumbing to obvious pressure from there. So this is a very, I think, perhaps a decision still rests with them. I don't know whether we have called it off yet or not. Secondly, you can see the other country, UAE. When it comes to Kashmir is of vital importance to Pakistan. And look what they've been doing. And, when it was going along, look at what happened about the announcement of the 70 billion investment. Look what had happened earlier, and bestowing the highest awards on the civilian awards by Saudi Arabia. Also, look what happened by UAE when we were having trouble with India and Kashmir. They invite the Indian foreign minister onto the OIC. Not even a member of OIC, not even an observer in the OIC. We had to walk out of the, dismiss that. So to have any expectation that any of these countries would do justice to the fighting the causes of the Muslim country, they have miserably not,
failed, and they will fail in the future
their
also.
own interest. The OIC was formed in 1969,
Sir.
and it for the Palestine. Where is the solution on Palestine? And today, if you pick up the
Useless
paper,
body,
you will
sir,
find
if I may
that
say.
there is an expo in Dubai, and Israel is talking about there will be a gateway for the investment from all over the Arab world and so on. So we have miserably failed, and we should. Our interest lies in national interest lies.
Sir,
here,
your national
that we
interest
must
is the most
stand by
important
this
part.
organization.
Absolutely. Ali Saab, now you must have heard what Ambassador Saab and Dr. Saab they've just said regarding this very important visit. Yeah, your take on that part, sir.
Well, I agree with you, Faisal. I mean, I really think that multilateralism is the way to be, and we see countries in our neighborhood trying to balance relationships. I mean, even if you look at India and China, I mean, there is this broader move to kind of use them to counterbalance each other, and they are each playing their own cards. China's gotten more involved in South Asia. India's trying to go Southeast Asia, but at the same time they have a relationship, right? I mean, and our relationship it has been in the Arab world. It has really put its eggs in a very few baskets. And we know that, I mean, the outcome of that has, of course, led to sort of increasing sectarianism within Pakistan. Of course, there's real politics. Money brings with it influence and power. But there was an opportunity for Pakistan to have sort of, taken a strategic lead. But I mean, we have a very sort of conventional way of doing, politics, and the House of Saud does remain very, influential within the country. And certainly there's a need, there's a broader imperative to think beyond that, because, for instance, I mean, the Chabahar port, I mean, that which is, of course, in Iran. I mean, Iran in recent years, and because of our sort of divergence in Afghanistan, we've seen India and Iran develop a very strong relationship. So, when there are these opportunities, it doesn't mean that we have to switch over, but Qatar, I mean, Pakistan and Qatar is also playing a very facilitative role towards, ensuring peace in Afghanistan. So, we should not let go of these opportunities. Also, on the other hand, although it's not a direct topic of conversation, I mean, but even with the case of China, again and again, the Uyghur question is coming up internationally, and our Prime Minister has pointedly also been asked about it. And, he does not want to say anything. Now, China has a certain, way of doing international relations. And, the broader assessment is that, in the last 20, 30 years, I mean, yes, we're doing CPEC, but China has its own reasons for doing that. But, these sort of the deeper than the deeper sea and the sweeter than honey, that's talk as well. So it doesn't mean that we can't be concerned. I mean, because if we have so much concern for Islamophobia in the world, why can't we see what's happening in our own neck of the woods? So, for us to be able to craft a
And my point,
position,
before I may put another question to you, Ali. Interestingly, I still remember that 52-minute speech of our Prime Minister on the floor of the United Nations, where he primarily talked about major issues, four important. Third one was about the Islamophobia, fourth was about Kashmir. But on Islamophobia, he very categorically mentioned it was rather the duty of the Muslim world and the leaders to stand up and address that issue, and nobody ever did. So primarily, if this was the issue, I think since Pakistan's initiative was there, our interest is there, we should have been a part of it. Now, sir, another important part, that is about the fake news, that propaganda concept of the Indian, sir, because the future is all about the social media and the applications and the gadgets which we hold in our hand. The way things are changing, sir, the way people are perceiving, it is all because of the modern technology. Maybe down another 10 years down the line, sir, things would be so different. Now, your take on this point that India is also using this propaganda machine and these fake accounts on social media to malign Pakistan, sir.
well, it's doing itself a disservice because CNN, the BBC, has picked up on this point. And India has been very clever in the last 2 decades. They have, in Washington, D.C., for instance, you note, their influence in academia. You note their influence in the think tank community. And, resorting to this type of gimmickry where there's already a lot of concern. I mean, if you notice what's happening within U.S. politics right now. Right, I mean, the use of sort of, all these discussions around sort of the politicization and the use of Facebook and other social forms of social media to, perpetuate and polarize, political opinion. So in that context, I mean, this issue coming to light really does a disservice to, India's very successful sort of, position in the international community. So on the one side, you have these the citizenship bill, etc., making in the international glare sort of turn towards India, And then, this idea that, hey, there's this, prospect of false news trying to, create misinformation. So this will also, it's another tarnishing factor. But the trick here is also to learn. What are we going to do? A while ago, there was also concern that a Canadian cyber company is going to be engaged, and there's increasing surveillance and ideas around press freedom, vis-a-vis our own country. Because now we have an opportunity, really internationally, particularly on the human rights agenda, if we have, if we develop a moralistic and not, not looking at certain evils and accentuating others. If we look at what's happening to the minorities within our own country.
Right.
Then on these
All right,
human
Ali,
rights issues,
since we are running out of
really
time, let me
have
also
the
take
opportunity.
a quick comment from the guests in the studio, sir, on this same issue, sir. Dr.
Look,
Saab?
we have to not forget that in the 21st century, we are living in a century where there's a lot of connectivity. And we think that we are very much informed, but we are disinformed. And in the fifth generation warfare, which we call it hybrid warfare,
Yeah.
this you can say fake news or fake propaganda, it was already there.
It's a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool. And it was basically, historically, it was a part of psychological warfare,
Yeah.
in which we used to say that in the psychological warfare, rumors and the propaganda was a tool recipe. But in the modern time, of course, the same thing has been more. Today, it's become more effective. Why? Because the tools of disinformation, they are very much there. So they create you can say groups, they create the blogs, and then they start putting the information. And sometimes you are confused what is happening. So that's the thing. And there is a need that we have to educate the people more and more on these issues and highlight that there are certain, even for
Dr.
example-
Saab, can't you counter such strategies by similar strategies?
Yeah, you can similar strategies, but at the same time generating more awareness in your media, you can say spokesperson, your information. Here the problem now has become that if you cannot bring transparency in your policies and you cannot educate your own people, they are always misled.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy. For example, sometimes it's so much information is coming from here and there. When you see it, if you lack the actual understanding, you lost somewhere.
Yeah.
So India is very effectively using, and you know that they are very good.
And I think they have mastered the art. Ambassador Saab, we used to hear about the hard power, the soft power, and now the smart power. Sir.
Yeah, well, disinformation is a word which was coined by Joseph Stalin back in 1922.
Sir?
And, during the Second World War, very effectively used by
Germans, by the British.
Germans, and Goebbels, well known for his, the minister for Stalin, of Hitler. The fact is that giving a more, the Americans were not into it at all until 1980s, when they were accused by the Soviet Union of supporting the apartheid regime in South Africa. And then, of course, they also used it themselves, the propaganda against Gaddafi, and so on. And even as late as 2016, when Donald Trump apparently used it when Pope Francis, with the fake news, showed that he was supporting Donald Trump. So I'm just giving you a general sort of an example. The way out of this is that, and I think it was some time back in 2000, beginning of this century, that European Union and UN, they decided to look at the whole issue of that and how to counter that. And they have put up special organizations, they have put up special centers how to tackle this. Now, for example, the European Union have a center where they look at all the fake news. And from 2015 to 2017, 3,600 fake news have been put on the net, correcting where they have gone wrong. Now, basically, this misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, whatever, is obviously the task of the intelligence agencies so far. But now it's getting more sophisticated, with the use of Twitter and Facebook and so on.
Absolutely, sir. Fake
And
accounts.
so what is
That's how you
happening
do it,
now
yeah.
is that we have organizations like what is it called, the fact checker organization, the politic organization, and there are a number of organizations which have come about. And so what the need is now, and there are specialists now who are able to give you, check any news that has come. And this particularly goes as far as news reports are concerned, or claims are being made by politicians, etc.
correct, sir.
So what is needed for us is to have
All right.
our own organization, to be able to look at what is coming from there, and we.
You need to have a
we
counter
bring this.
strategy also. So, but anyway.
Last point
sir,
I
sir,
want to
quick
make
comment,
here is
sir.
it has also been assessed that all the false information that is given against a target country really makes them, the target country, to change its policies. So information is there, but they continue with their policy. What they what India has put up from there is not going to change Pakistan's policy in any way.
Anyway, sir, this was pretty interesting, but I think we need more time to talk about this. It's a very interesting topic, actually. But Dr. Saab, it was a pleasure having you. Ambassador Saab, thank you so much for coming, sir. And Sayyid Muhammad Ali, thank you very much for participating in our show, sir. And that's all we have for this. I'll see you again. Till then, you take good care. Allah Hafiz.